You know, my parents always said my brother earned his shiny Mercedes fair and square, while I was stuck in a rusty old Corolla. But when Grandpa asked a simple question about the car he gave me, the room went completely silent. And that's when everything changed. Betrayal, secrets, a family feud that no one saw coming. So, where are you watching from right now? Stick around, because this story only gets wilder from here. And trust me, you don't want to miss a second. The rain wasn't just falling that night. It was hammering against the windshield of my 2008 Corolla like it had a personal grudge. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, praying to whatever mechanical gods might exist that the blinking engine light was just a glitch. For a second, it seemed like maybe, just maybe, it was. Then the car shuddered, let out a wheezing cough that sounded eerily like an old animal in pain, and the power steering vanished. I wrestled it onto the muddy shoulder, just a mile from my parents' pristine driveway, and sat there for a moment, forehead pressed to the cold steering wheel, listening to the relentless rain pinging on the metal. "Please," I whispered, almost absurdly, "just get me through dinner tonight." I was 26. I had a master's degree in education, and I spent 50 hours a week teaching high school chemistry to teenagers who cared more about TikTok than the periodic table. And yet here I was, praying my car held together, unable to afford even a simple alternator fix. I sighed and started walking the last mile. By the time I reached the front door of my parents' sprawling colonial-style house, I was soaked. My cheap heels were caked in mud, my hair plastered to my skull, shivering uncontrollably. I didn't even knock. The door swung open to my mother, Deborah, standing there like some sort of warden inspecting a prisoner. She wasn't concerned about me. No. She was staring at the mud on the porch like I'd committed a crime. "Alina," she hissed, checking over her shoulder. "Good Lord, look at you. Did you walk? Where's your car?" "It died," I said through chattering teeth. "A mile back. Alternator finally gave up." She didn't skip a beat. "Well, don't stand there dripping on the hardwood," she snapped, thrusting a rag at me like I was a muddy dog. "Go dry off in the laundry room. Grandpa Arthur is already seated, and you know how he gets about punctuality." I cleaned myself up as best I could, cursing under my breath about damp clothes and hair that refused to cooperate. When I finally walked into the dining room, the warmth of the fire and smell of roast beef hit me. But instead of comfort, it only made the divide feel sharper. My father, Richard, was pouring wine. My brother, Lucas, already looking well-rested and dry, was eating a bread roll. And at the head of the table sat Grandpa Arthur, carved from granite, his eyes sharp enough to make paint peel off the walls. "Alina," he boomed, his voice low and growly. "You're late." I slid into my seat, trying to hide my muddy ankles. "Car trouble, Grandpa." The Corolla finally gave up on the highway. The room froze. My father cleared his throat nervously. "Yes, well, these things happen with old machines. Have some wine, Arthur." But Grandpa didn't reach for wine. He didn't look confused or angry at first. He just stared. Confused. That was new. "Your Corolla," he repeated. "Yes," I mumbled, grabbing a bread roll. It had 200,000 miles on it, but it had tried its best. Grandpa's gaze shifted to the window, where the driveway under the floodlights revealed a brand new silver Mercedes, gleaming even in the rain. Then who was driving the Mercedes? He asked slowly. Lucas puffed out his chest. That's mine, he said. Grandpa looked at him, then at my parents, and finally back at me, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous rumble. Alina, where's the Mercedes I gave you? My hand froze halfway to my mouth. You gave me that car. The realization hit me like a thunderclap. My parents' carefully constructed lies, my brother's smugness, all unraveled in a heartbeat. The betrayal wasn't just shocking, it was physical. The room seemed to shrink, the rain outside pounding like the truth itself. I looked at my father. Sweat. My mother's knuckles were white on the napkins, and Grandpa Arthur, quiet and immovable, was the eye of the storm. It was in that moment, standing there half-soaked, utterly socked, that I realized this dinner wasn't just a meal. It was the beginning of a reckoning, and the truth was about to hit like a freight train. The dining room felt smaller somehow, despite its high ceilings and polished wood. The fire crackled. The roast beef aroma hung thick, but nothing could mask the tension coiling around the table. Grandpa Arthur sat at the head, carved from granite as always, eyes like twin icebergs scanning the room. I perched at my chair, muddy ankles tucked beneath me, my heart hammering in ways that felt both ridiculous and deadly serious. My father, Richard, and mother, Deborah, were stiff, like statues under observation, while Lucas, my brother, sat smugly at the side, already halfway through a bread roll, totally unbothered. Grandpa cleared his throat, a low, deliberate sound that made the room fall even quieter. Elena, he said, deep and gravely, each syllable measured. You're late. I swallowed hard. Car trouble, Grandpa, I said, my voice shaking despite my best attempt to sound casual. The Corolla finally gave up on the highway. There was a pause that felt like a stretch of eternity. My father's hand trembled over the wine bottle as he tried to recover the situation. Yes, well, these things happen with old machines, he said, his voice too high, too nervous. Have some wine, Arthur. But Grandpa didn't reach for his glass. He just stared at me. Then the driveway beyond the window, where the rain-slicked asphalt reflected the floodlights, and there it was. Parked proudly and gleaming in the night, a brand new silver Mercedes C-Class. My stomach dropped. This was the car I had been expecting for my graduation, my gift, the one Grandpa had sent for me, and it was my brother driving it. Grandpa's voice dropped, low and dangerous. Then, who was driving the Mercedes? Lucas puffed out his chest, trying to look confident. That's mine, he said. There was a beat. Then Grandpa's gaze shifted methodically from Lucas to my parents, reading them like an open ledger before resting back on me. His voice, calm but cutting, reverberated in the room. Elena, where's the Mercedes I gave you? I froze. My hands hovered over my bread roll. You gave me that car, I whispered, the words catching in my throat. The room seemed to constrict, the walls closing in with the weight of revelation. My father's mouth opened and closed. My mother's knuckles were white, gripping her napkin like a lifeline. Lucas, for the first time, looked less assured, a flicker of panic crossing his smug face. The silence stretched. Then I found my voice, shaky but rising. My parents, they gave it to Lucas. They told me he bought it with his crypto investments. My words sounded small, but the anger beneath them was growing, simmering in my chest. Grandpa didn't flinch. He didn't yell. He just sat, still as stone, and let the room digest the truth. His gaze sharpened, slowly, carefully. "Your parents lied to me repeatedly for 2 years," he said finally. Calm, measured, but with a chill underneath that made the air prick my skin. Richard cleared his throat again, trying to laugh nervously. "Now, Arthur, let's not get into logistics over dinner. We can discuss the finances later. It was a family decision." "A family decision," he stammered, reaching for the wine bottle again, though his hand shook enough that the neck rattled against the rim. Grandpa's eyes didn't leave him. Was Elena part of this family decision? His voice dropped, low and deadly. I felt my stomach twist. I had never known anything about this. Not a word. The betrayal wasn't abstract, it was intimate, personal. My parents had used me, lied about me, and the full weight of it landed in my chest. I couldn't contain it any longer. I've been paying $600 a month in repairs for a car that doesn't even have air conditioning. I missed days of work because it wouldn't start. My voice shook, my hands trembling. My mother snapped, eyes flashing daggers. "Elena, lower your voice. Don't be dramatic." But drama. This wasn't drama. It was my life. Siphoned, stolen, and twisted by the very people who were supposed to love me. Lucas, ever the golden child, tried to interject, slamming his hand on the table. "You wouldn't understand. You're just a teacher. You don't need a Mercedes to drive to a public high school. It's about the image. Humility, it's better for you to be humble." The audacity made my jaw ache. My voice rose, sharp and incredulous. "My image I have to tape my side mirror on with duct tape, that's my image." Grandpa finally intervened, his voice slicing through the chaos like a blade. "Enough." It wasn't a shout, it was a command. He dabbed his mouth with his napkin and placed it neatly on the table. Every gesture precise, deliberate. "Richard, Deborah, you told me that Elena was thrilled with the car, that she took great care of it. You passed along her gratitude. You lied. You knew she had no idea the gift existed." My parents faltered. My mother tried to croak out an excuse, words faltering under the weight of her own guilt. We didn't want to worry her. The car is powerful. Lucas could handle it. It's safer." Each word stumbled into the next, thin, desperate, transparent. I felt my anger rise, a boiling point inside me, mixing with a deep, bitter sadness. They weren't protecting me, they were stealing from me. Grandpa reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather-bound notebook. He opened it carefully and began reading dates, transfers, confirmations. $55,000 for my graduation gift. 2 years ago, verified phone calls, confirmed receipt. Each entry was a hammer blow, each word another nail in the coffin of my parents' lies. He closed the notebook with a snap that echoed across the room. "You stole from your daughter." I felt a strange combination of relief and vindication. The truth was out, and it was unstoppable now. My parents' faces were pale, slick with sweat, their perfect masks cracked, revealing panic and shame beneath. Lucas looked lost, his confidence evaporating like mist. And me, I was trembling. Yes, but no longer small. The anger had given me focus, clarity. For the first time, I wasn't just a passive witness to their deceit. I was awake, present, and ready to face whatever came next. Grandpa leaned back slightly, his gaze never leaving them. Calm, authoritative, and completely terrifying. This wasn't just a dinner. This was the reckoning, and it had only just begun. The next morning, the quiet of Grandpa's hotel suite was almost suffocating. Leather chairs, thick carpets, the scent of polished wood, and something faintly citrusy from the air freshener. Every detail screamed old money, authority, and control. I sat across from him at a long, dark table, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that the paralegal had thoughtfully brought in a bone china cup. My hands were still shaking, but this time it wasn't the cold, it was adrenaline, a mix of fear, disbelief, and growing resolve. Grandpa Arthur appeared calm, as always, though I could see the tension and the slight tightness around his jaw. He gestured to a man sitting next to him, sharp-suited, baldish, eyes like cold steel. Mr. Henderson. If looks could kill, this one could. Grandpa's voice, softer than last night, but still carrying that unmistakable authority, drew me in. Elena, come in. We moved to the conference table, where Mr. Henderson placed a thick folder in front of me. I glanced at it, heart hammering. The label read, Beneficiary Disbursements, Elena Murray Vance, Mr. Henderson's voice was dry, precise, a rhythm of facts that felt almost surgical. Before we begin, I need to verify your identity and current assets. Your grandfather has raised concerns that funds distributed to your parents as your custodians and later as your proxies never reached you. My brow furrowed. Proxies? I never appointed anyone as a proxy. Mr. Henderson slid a power of attorney form across the table. 3 years old, my signature at the bottom. Loop of the E too wide, O too sharp. I whispered, barely able to form words. I didn't sign this. That's not my signature. Grandpa's eyes were grave. We suspected as much, he said. Elena, brace yourself. The Mercedes was just the tip of the iceberg. I swallowed, gripping the edge of the table. The folder opened, and my life unraveling stared back at me in neat rows of transactions, invoices, and memos. Each page was worse than the last. Requests filed by my mother, Deborah Vance, purportedly on my behalf, a $40,000 wedding venue deposit to a Mr. James Sterling. I was single. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. Mr. Henderson continued without pause. $15,000 for emergency reconstructive dental surgery after a supposed car accident in 2021. My mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. I had never had a cavity, let alone surgery. My stomach turned, and then the clincher. $25,000 requested for mental health residential treatment due to a severe nervous breakdown last summer. The room spun. I gripped the table, breathing shallow, trying not to cry and trying not to scream. Grandpa's voice trembled slightly, though controlled, when he said, "They used your sanity, your reputation, as currency. I thought I was supporting your recovery. I thought I was helping you. Instead, they turned it into leverage." My head was spinning, and my thoughts were a storm. I had worked double shifts at a summer school program to pay off student loans while they lied to my grandfather. Siphoning money meant for me, turning my life into a ledger of falsehoods. Where did the money go? I asked, though I already suspected. Mr. Henderson projected a spreadsheet onto the monitor. Lines, numbers, arrows connecting transfers to Lucas's accounts, to vacations, to renovations. The wedding money perfectly coincided with Lucas's basement renovation. Dental expenses appeared days before his Instagram posts from Cabo. Mental health transfers covered margin calls on my father's day trading account. I felt hollow. I wasn't a daughter. I was a ghost project, a phantom they manipulated for cash. "This is fraud," I whispered, shaking. It sounded small, but it carried the weight of a hurricane. Grandpa leaned forward, patting my hand. "Yes, Elena, but you hold the key. You can stop this. You can cut them off. But I need you to testify, to confirm these requests were fabricated." My hands trembled, and yet something inside me settled a clarity, a sense of purpose. "I'll do whatever you need," I said. My voice steadied with each word. "I'm done protecting them." He nodded. A small, approving motion, then pushed a button on the intercom. "Lock the accounts, Henderson. Serve the eviction notice." I felt a surge of disbelief. The hotel suite, the calm authority of the men at the table, it was almost unreal. I didn't go back to school that day. I couldn't face my students knowing my own family had betrayed me so completely. I returned to my apartment, a third-floor walk-up, peeling paint, radiator clanking, to process what had just happened. Walking up the stairs, my mind swirled with legal terms, wire transfers, the staggering scale of theft. I unlocked my door and froze. Inside, my mother sat on my thrift store couch, father pacing the kitchenette, Lucas leaning against the wall, scrolling on his phone. "Where have you been?" Mom demanded, eyes red-rimmed but makeup intact. I dropped my keys. "Worried?" I asked, voice quiet but cutting. They stared. "You caused a disaster last night," Dad barked, haggard, smelling faintly of scotch. "Grandpa Arthur is confused," I said. Leaning against the counter, recalling the wire transfer for my supposed reconstructive dental surgery. Silence. Lucas's mouth fell open. "What surgery?" "Shut up." "Lucas," Dad hissed, forcing a strained smile. "My parents tried to manipulate, justify, explain, but the evidence, thick folders, spreadsheets, the power of attorney was irrefutable. Their excuses fell apart. We were managing the family cash flow," Mom insisted, voice cracking. "Borrowed against your inheritance." "With interest," I snapped. The cold, calculated theft, the audacity, the entire masquerade they had tried to turn me into a charity case so my brother could live lavishly and my father could gamble. I felt shock, anger, and then, slowly, a fierce empowerment. I wasn't a victim. I was alive, aware, and ready. Grandpa had given me the tools. Mr. Henderson had outlined the facts. The deception was exposed. And I was finally seeing the full scope, everything my parents had taken. Every lie, every dollar, every manipulated document. My pulse was high, my mind sharp. I could feel the weight of justice resting on my shoulders. And for the first time, it felt possible to reclaim what was mine, to stand up, not just for myself, but for the truth. I reached my apartment, the third-floor walk-up that had seen better days, and froze at the sight inside. Mom was on my thrift store couch, Dad pacing the kitchenette, and Lucas leaning lazily against the wall, scrolling on his phone like nothing had changed. My keys hit the counter with a loud clatter. "Where have you been?" Mom demanded, jumping up, her voice tight. I folded my arms, my chest heavy with disbelief. "Worried?" I said quietly, letting the word hang. They all froze. Dad's face twisted into a grimace. "You caused a disaster last night. Elena, Grandpa Arthur is confused. He's upset." I leaned against the counter, voice steady but sharp. Upset, you mean, because he saw what you've been doing for years. Using me, lying to him, stealing from me. Is that what you mean? Lucas snorted, a smirk forming. Come on, you're blowing this out of proportion. It's just a little family money, right? I stared at him, disbelief burning through me. Just a little. You mean my inheritance, the car meant for me, the money that should have covered my life and you spent on vacations, renovations, and stock losses. Just a little. My voice shook, but I held it. Mom tried to cut in, waving her hands frantically. Elena, you don't understand. We were protecting you. You were fine. You're strong. You could handle hardship. I laughed, harsh and jagged, a sound that seemed to startle even me. Strong. You turned me into a charity case. You made me struggle while Lucas partied in Cabo. Strong. No. Angry. That's what you made me. And now, I see it clearly. You're predators, preying on my life, my money, my identity. Dad's jaw tightened, his eyes dark. Elena, it's not fair. We were managing family assets. It was temporary. You'll understand when you're older. You're overreacting. Overreacting, I could feel my anger rise, but also a strange calm, a focus I hadn't felt before. Temporary. You stole from me. You forged documents. You lied to Grandpa. And you used my sanity, my reputation, to cover your tracks. That's not managing. That's exploitation. That's fraud. Mom's eyes flared, then softened in a manipulative blink. Elena, your father is having chest pains. He could have a heart attack. This is on you. We're family. Don't let money destroy us. I shook my head, exhaling slowly. Lucas is 23. He's driving my car. You've manipulated every part of our lives. And now, you're trying to guilt me. That ends today. I'm done protecting you. Get out. I could see the panic in their eyes, the sudden realization that I wasn't the scared, compliant daughter anymore. Lucas, now defensive, muttered as he brushed past me, shoulder checking me hard enough to stumble. You're going to pay for this? You ruined everything. I stood my ground, voice calm, deadly in its steadiness. No, Lucas, I just stopped paying for you. That's the difference. Everything else you've done. That ends now. Dad's face turned red with fury, his hands shaking. If you don't fix this, Elena, if you don't call Grandpa and say it was a mistake, you are dead to us. Do you hear me? We will cut you off. I looked at them, really looked, and saw the greed, the entitlement, the lack of any genuine care. Get out, I said, voice firm. Elena, get out, I repeated, and this time the power behind my words settled over them like a weight. Mom sobbed, clutching Lucas, while Dad ranted about lawyers and rights, but it was hollow. They had nothing. Their threats were powerless against the evidence Grandpa had, the legal action underway, and the truth in my hands. I watched them leave, dragging their own shame behind them. And as the heavy door shut, a quiet settled over the apartment. I leaned against the counter, chest heaving, the adrenaline slowly ebbing, replaced by something warmer: control, clarity, empowerment. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was the one holding the leverage, the one with the power to reclaim my life. I wasn't just a daughter anymore. I was a force, and the reckoning had only just begun. Over the next few days, Grandpa and Mr. Henderson moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Accounts were frozen, documents examined, and a meticulous audit began. I sat beside them, flipping through stacks of statements, invoices, and spreadsheets, learning the scale of what had been done to me. Every wire transfer, every supposed expense, every phantom claim, it all started to form a horrifying pattern. My parents hadn't just taken money here and there. They'd orchestrated a system to siphon off my inheritance, my gifts, my identity. Grandpa would occasionally lean back, eyes narrowing as he reviewed a line of numbers, his voice calm but cutting. "Alina, look at this flow," he said one morning, pointing to a series of transactions. "Notice how the wedding money coincides with Lucas's basement renovation. The dental transfer happens 2 days before his Cabo trip. Every dollar traces directly to their lifestyle, not yours." I nodded, heart racing. The scale of manipulation was staggering. I realized quickly that my role wasn't just sitting there absorbing facts. Grandpa needed me to help uncover the details. So, I became an active participant, a strategist in a quiet war. We started mapping every transaction, connecting dots that led to Lucas and my parents' schemes. I was tracking patterns, noting dates, spotting anomalies. I even began to monitor Lucas's movements online. It felt strange at first. Sneaky, almost voyeuristic, but necessary. The man lived for social media, desperate for attention, and that became our tool. I created a fake Instagram account, posing as a scout for a luxury car magazine. I followed Lucas's private account, which he accepted immediately. His arrogance was his weakness. Within hours, he posted a story from the lake house, showing off a view and a teak coffee table I recognized instantly. "Got him," I said to Grandpa, showing him the screen. He nodded, his eyes hard but approving. The Mercedes was out there, and we had a trail. It wasn't just about recovering the car, it was about exposing the truth. Every day brought new revelations. Credit cards opened in my name, maxed out, paid minimally with Grandpa's money, just enough to avoid alerts, keeping my finances strangled while they funded their own excess. We discovered the fake invoices, the forged signatures, the medical claims that never existed. My parents had constructed a narrative that made me seem unstable, fragile, and incapable, all to keep Grandpa in the dark and justify their siphoning of funds. As I compiled evidence, I began to see the meticulous strategy Grandpa had in place. Mr. Henderson was ruthless but precise, sending notices, freezing accounts, and preparing legal documentation that left no room for evasion. I followed their lead, cross-referencing statements, highlighting forged signatures, tracing wire transfers. My adrenaline sharpened my mind, and despite the tension, a strange satisfaction settled over me. We weren't just exposing fraud, we were orchestrating accountability, step by step. Grandpa trusted me to act. I made calls to banks, verified account activity, gathered timestamps, and even scouted locations online to confirm asset placements. Each small discovery felt like a tiny victory, and Lucas, blissfully unaware, continued to post, entirely predictable in his need for attention. We used that to our advantage, logging every post, every brag, every hint of the lifestyle funded by money that wasn't his. Each post became evidence, a digital breadcrumb trail leading straight to the misuse of my inheritance. It was tense, exhausting work, but with every document, every screenshot, every careful note, the picture became clearer. The fraud was not just opportunistic, it was deliberate, systematic, and cold. Grandpa remained calm, but I could feel the weight of his disapproval whenever he looked at the figures. "Elena," he said one afternoon, tapping a spreadsheet. "This isn't just about the car or the house. This is about years of deception, and every action you take now strengthens our position." His confidence was contagious. It gave me courage and clarity. There were small victories along the way. We located the Mercedes, recovered the lake house evidence, and traced the money streams. Each day, the tension between the strategy sessions and the reality outside the texts from my parents, the futile threats, the desperate attempts to regain control made the stakes feel immediate. But in that tension, I felt alive, empowered, clever. I was no longer the victim of circumstance. I was a participant, a strategist, a detective in my own life. And the beauty of it was, every step we took was irreversible. The accounts were frozen, the paper trail documented, Lucas's every move, every boast online, every indulgence funded by theft, meticulously logged. Grandpa's plan and our combined efforts were airtight, and it felt like a slow, inevitable unraveling. The law, technology, and strategic thinking aligned perfectly. I could see the shock that would ripple through my parents' lives when it all came to light. And it was deeply satisfying. Not revenge for the sake of it, but justice meticulously executed, evidence-backed, unstoppable. By the end of those intense days, I was exhausted, yes, but also alert, aware, and empowered. I had become a participant in my own recovery, a crucial player in the orchestration of truth and accountability. I had learned not just the scope of my parents' betrayal, but also how to reclaim agency, to strategize, and to turn their predictability against them. Every action we took brought us closer to exposing them, retrieving what was mine, and finally leveling the playing field. The Oakmont Country Club smelled of lilies and old money, the crystal chandeliers trembling as music echoed across the polished dance floor. I stood at the entrance, clutching my bag so tightly that the beads bit into my palm. My heart was doing a frantic drum solo in my chest. Grandpa Arthur, in his tuxedo, leaned on his cane beside me, regal and unshakable, his eyes scanning the room like a king surveying his kingdom. "Breathe, Elena," he murmured, calm but firm. "We aren't crashing the party. We're correcting the record." I nodded, feeling my stomach twist. "They're going to hate me," I whispered to myself, scanning the room. And there they were, my mother, holding court with a champagne flute, her laugh loud, mask firmly in place. Lucas sat sulking beside her, looking too sharp in a suit that was slightly tight, clearly bored. The dichotomy of their composure and the truth I carried made my chest ache. Grandpa's voice, low and deliberate, reminded me why we were here. "They already hate you," he said, eyes locked on mine. "You're the mirror. They hate themselves, and they see it in you. It's time to break that mirror and show everyone else what's behind it." I took a deep breath, letting the words settle in. We walked in, slow, purposeful steps, navigating through round tables where conversations had halted mid-word as heads turned to the unexpected guests. The ripple was immediate. Whispers started at the edges, and I could feel the eyes on us as Grandpa's presence drew attention like a magnet. My mother spotted us first. Her smile faltered, a twitch at the corners betraying panic. She rushed forward, intercepting us before we reached the head table. "Dad, Arthur." She leaned in for an exaggerated kiss, which Grandpa deftly avoided, turning his head with precision. "Elena, we didn't think you were coming, with your condition," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, her voice dripping pity. I squared my shoulders, voice calm, steady. "My condition is excellent, Deborah. I'm feeling incredibly clear-headed." Her eyes darted nervously as she processed the firmness in my tone. She tried the familiar tactic, suggesting a quiet corner. "Why don't we go find a table in the back?" I shook my head. "No, I want to talk to Karen." Aunt Karen, my mother's sister, was near the DJ booth, adjusting floral arrangements. A fierce woman, no patience for nonsense. Grandpa moved past my parents like an icebreaker slicing through ice, authority emanating from every step. "We are talking real estate," he said to her, ignoring their protests. Karen turned, surprised, and smiled warmly at Grandpa. "Uncle Arthur." What a surprise, and Elena, look at you. You look wonderful. I stepped forward, holding my phone. Screen lit. "Karen, are you renting out your lake house in Florida this week?" She frowned. "What?" "No, it's closed up for the season, shutters down, alarm set." I held up the screen. A photo from Lucas's Instagram, posted 6 hours ago, showed his feet on her teak coffee table, caption, "Living the unbothered life." Lake vibes. Karen squinted, realization dawning. "That's my table and that's my view." Her voice dropped as she looked at Lucas, who was mid-bite on a shrimp, blissfully unaware of the storm about to hit him. Mom screeched, rushing to interject. "Karen, honey, it's a misunderstanding. We thought you wouldn't mind." Grandpa's voice, calm and devastating, cut through her panic. "He broke a window to get in. The security company called me because my name is still on the emergency contact list from when I financed this property." The ballroom fell silent. Conversation stopped. The DJ paused the track. Eyes darted, phones lifted. All attention was on us. Karen's gaze locked on my mother. "You broke into my house, Deborah." Her voice was ice, Mom stammered, grasping for excuses, words tumbling out. Lucas just needed a place to decompress. He's under so much stress with his investments. Grandpa's calm authority overrode every excuse. "You're squatters in her house. You stole from your daughter, and you ruined her cousin's engagement party." The words hit like cannon fire. Lucas's jaw dropped. "It's not like that," he shouted, stepping forward, defiance in every move. Grandpa didn't flinch. 2 men in dark suits, private security he had hired, stepped from the wings, flanking the area. Lucas bounced off one of them like a rubber ball hitting a wall. Mom screamed, trying to shield him. But the truth was, a tidal wave they couldn't contain. Karen's voice, cold and unrelenting, addressed them directly. "You squatted in my house, you stole from her, and you ruined my daughter's engagement party." The room held its breath. Mom's voice cracked as she tried the victim card. "We're broke. We have nothing. We just wanted to survive." Grandpa's tone was final, cutting through the wine like a knife. "You have nothing because you spent it on watches, vacations, and cars while your daughter drove a wreck. I gave you a home, an education, and a monthly stipend that exceeds most people's yearly income. You consumed it all like locusts. Get out." And Karen pointed to the doors. Get out of my club. Get out of my house. And if I see Lucas near my property again, I will press charges for breaking and entering." My father roared, face purple. "You can't do this. We have standing in this community. We are Vances." I stepped forward, deadly calm. "Not anymore. The evidence is here. The fraud is documented, and you have no rights over what isn't yours." Security guided them toward the exit, their shouts and cries fading as the heavy oak doors swung shut. Silence settled, thick and profound. Every head in the room was on us, every whisper and glance carrying the weight of the reveal. I exhaled, finally allowing myself a small tremble of relief. Grandpa gave me a small nod, a tired but approving acknowledgement. The mirror was broken. For the first time, I wasn't the one cleaning up the glass. The fallout had begun, swift and brutal. My parents' house of cards had collapsed without Grandpa's financial backing. Eviction executed, federal charges threatened. They were forced into repayment agreements with garnished wages for life. Lucas, the so-called entrepreneur, lost the basement suite, the trips, the accounts. His entire setup evaporated. My own life, finally unburdened, began to feel steady. I looked at the Mercedes, now fully mine, recovered from the lake house. A few scratches where Lucas had been careless, but cleaned and detailed to perfection. Grandpa stood beside me, handing me a thick envelope, the deed to the house they were evicted from. I stared, overwhelmed. "I can't live in that house. Grandpa, it's too big. It's theirs." He smiled, knowing, wise. "That's why I'm giving you permission to sell it. The market is hot. Buy yourself something cozy, something yours, and fund your classroom for the next 20 years. Tears pricked my eyes, and I hugged him, the wool of his sweater scratchy against my face. "Thank you," I whispered. He pulled back, holding me at arm's length. "Thank you for having the courage to tell me the truth. Lies rot a family from the inside out. You cut out the rot." I slid into the Mercedes, the leather warm under my hand. The engine purred, quiet and confident. The road ahead was open, clear, and for the first time in years, it felt like mine. The days after the engagement party felt surreal. The house they'd called home for 20 years, the sprawling estate with the colonial facade, the perfectly manicured lawn, the rooms filled with memories, or what they claimed were memories, was no longer theirs. The eviction was swift and absolute. I had never seen my parents like that, rushing through the grand hallways, trying to stuff crystal chandeliers into garbage bags, dragging rugs and heirlooms out the door as deputies looked on. Expressions frozen between panic and disbelief. The sheer audacity, the desperation, it was almost surreal, like watching a slow-motion disaster unfold in someone else's life. But this time, I was a spectator, and the view was profoundly satisfying. Lucas, the golden child, the supposed entrepreneur, was hit hardest, without his basement suite, the kitchen, the theater, and the private entrance. His world collapsed in ways I could hardly have imagined. The renovations, the gadgets, the freedom to mismanage money he didn't earn at all evaporated overnight. He called it a warehouse, a night shift loading trucks, a far cry from Cabo and late-night gaming sessions. I blocked his number after one desperate text, a single line. "You happy now?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The silence spoke volumes. Mom and Dad were forced into the apartment they had always joked about with disdain. A modest 2-bedroom unit in a part of town Mom had mocked for years. The high ceilings, the fireplaces, the landscaping. It was gone. Now, their world was stripped down to the essentials, and I couldn't help but feel a quiet sense of satisfaction at the cosmic balance. They had spent years using me, siphoning my inheritance, lying to Grandpa, manipulating my life, and suddenly, they had nothing. Everything they had built on my back, stolen from me, was gone. And I wasn't the one to take it from them. I simply let justice run its course. I spent a morning walking through the driveway of Grandpa's Connecticut estate. The leaves had turned gold and crimson, painting the world like fire. There was a crispness in the air, the kind that makes you breathe deeply and feel alive. And there it was, the Mercedes C-Class, recovered from the lake house, parked perfectly in the driveway. It had a few minor scratches, remnants of Lucas's carelessness, but it had been cleaned, detailed, and restored. The leather gleamed, the paint shone. I ran my hand over the hood, feeling a small, private thrill. This was mine. Finally, entirely mine. Grandpa stood nearby, his cardigan draped over his shoulders, cane in hand. "Are you sure you want to keep it?" he asked, voice calm, eyes crinkling at the corners. "We could trade it in, get something without memories attached." I smiled softly, hand lingering on the hood. "No, I want to keep it," I said. He tilted his head slightly. "Why?" "Because it wasn't Lucas's car," I said firmly. "It was my gift. Every time I drive it, I'll remember that I'm worth fighting for." Grandpa's smile widened, a mixture of pride and quiet satisfaction. "You are, Elena. You always were." He handed me a thick envelope. "What's this?" I asked, curiosity and anticipation prickling my skin. "The deed to the house," he said simply. "The one my parents had been evicted from." My eyes widened, heart hammering. "I can't live there, Grandpa. It's too big. It's theirs," I murmured, unsure if I could even imagine walking through those rooms again. He shook his head gently. "That's why I'm giving you permission to sell it. The market is hot. The proceeds should be enough for a cozy place of your own and to fund your classroom for the next 20 years. Tears pricked my eyes, and without thinking, I hugged him, burying my face in the scratchy wool of his sweater. He smelled of pipe tobacco and safety. "Thank you," I whispered. Grandpa pulled back, holding me at arm's length, his eyes serious. "No, thank you for having the courage to tell me the truth. Lies rot a family from the inside out. You cut out the rot." I blinked back tears, a mix of exhaustion, relief, and empowerment washing over me. I realized in that moment that this wasn't just about money, cars, or houses. It was about reclaiming my life, asserting my worth, and setting boundaries that could no longer be crossed. I slid into the Mercedes, leather warm beneath my hands. The engine purred to life, quiet and confident. Nothing like the wheezing, dying Corolla I had fought to get to that fateful dinner. Every shift of the gear, every turn of the wheel felt deliberate, satisfying, a private celebration of agency reclaimed. As I pulled out of the driveway, watching Grandpa wave from the porch until he became just a speck in the rearview mirror, a profound sense of closure settled over me. The road ahead was open, clear, and finally, entirely mine. The legal resolutions continued to echo through the weeks. The repayment plans for my parents were strict, garnished wages to cover every cent they had misappropriated. Federal charges hung like a sword over them, ensuring compliance. Lucas's world, once insulated by parental indulgence and deceit, had crumbled. No basement incubator, no luxury gadgets, no lavish parties. He was a man suddenly forced to face the consequences of entitlement, unprepared and unpracticed. For me, it wasn't gloating. It was a recognition that the scales had been balanced. Justice executed without malice, simply through the truth. I reflected often, in quiet moments, on the empowerment I felt. I had been manipulated, used, and underestimated for years. Yet the combination of strategic planning, courage to confront, and unwavering support from Grandpa had allowed me to reclaim what was mine. The Mercedes, the house proceeds, the validation of truth. It was more than material. It was the affirmation of my worth, my perseverance, and the fact that standing up for myself could change the course of my life. As autumn settled fully, the driveway lined with gold and crimson leaves, I realized that justice had a voice, and I had learned to wield it. The lessons were painful, yes, but they were mine. The future, open and bright, was no longer defined by the deceit of others. It was a path I could navigate, empowered, deliberate, and finally free. Standing up for yourself can feel impossible, especially when those closest to you betray your trust. But taking action, seeking the truth, and reclaiming what's rightfully yours can be life-changing. This story isn't just about money or a car. It's about realizing your own power and refusing to be used. Think about the areas in your life where you might need to assert yourself. If this story inspired you, stick around for more, and make sure to hit like and subscribe to keep exploring these real-life twists with us.